Hello everyone, my name is Viktoriia. I'm a junior fashion stylist and creative director. Originally I'm coming from Ukraine, but for the past 3 years I was living in Italy. I'm 21 years old. I'm here to tell you about my experience inside the fashion industry. So since my childhood, I heard from my parents and from my grandparents that Italy is such a beautiful place, it's such a nice country with very rich culture, because they used to travel to Italy back in the 80s and in the 90s. So since my childhood, I all the time heard only good things about this place. And I just imagined in my head that this is the most perfect country in the world. And when it was the time to choose where I would like to study, I thought, why don't I accomplish my childhood dream and why don't I visit Italy and see how it goes? And so far my mind hasn't changed. I still think that Italy is the best place for food, for studies, for people that are very friendly, they are very easy to approach, they're very funny. So I still believe that I would like to stay in Italy and to have a personal growth here. So in my personal opinion, I find Italian market of fashion more interesting because Italy was able to preserve the craftsmanship and the quality, the handmade approach to clothes. We all the time hear made in Italy as one of the best descriptions when it comes to purchasing the clothes. And also I believe that ready-to-wear market suits me better than, for example, the haute couture market that you can find in France and specifically in Paris. So according to my needs and to my inspirations, I decided that Italy is the best place to grow for me as a stylist. So the reason why I chose to study styling and creative direction was that for me design is a little bit too much about concept, it's a little bit too much about doing things with your hands. Instead, for example, business is a little bit too logical, it's a little bit too complicated and has pretty much nothing to do with creativity unless you go to marketing. So I decided that styling and creative direction will be something in between, where I will be able to develop visual concepts, but it's less technical than doing designs and drawings. And at the same time, of course, it's more social and more creative than doing the business aspects of fashion. I think those 3 years that I studied at Istituto Marangoni were actually the best years in my life. It was something that I truly enjoyed, and it really helped me to develop as a person and also as a professional. I really enjoyed that we didn't have any boring books, any notes to take, that everything was very practical. We developed so many projects regards video and photo, marketing, visual merchandising. So you studied as you were developing a project, and I think this is the best approach. Also, the teachers, they were people who actually work at the fashion industry, so they were able to bring their experience and advices to us, to our class, and we get to actually talk with people about the real things that are happening in the world of fashion, which I find very, very useful. I would advise you, if you have a possibility to enter a university that is not very theoretical but more practical, I would definitely suggest you to do it. This is gonna help you much more. So I did 2 years in Florence of my course, and then for my last year I decided maybe it's better for my professional growth to move to Milan, because Florence is such a nice place to hang out, to find your best friends, to enjoy Italian culture due to its smaller size and its still authentic identity in comparison, for example, to a bigger city like Milan. But of course, I think it's obvious for everyone that Milan has more possibility and more job opportunities. So I decided maybe it's a good idea to move to Milan for my last year and start to develop a firm ground here instead of finishing my course completely in Florence and then move to Milan completely without any connections, without any friends, and without knowing the actual city and how everything works here. And I think this was the best decision ever. So I got to experience both worlds. Okay, I would like to give a more profound and more detailed description of who is the creative director. There are two possibilities of being the creative director, or the one who is in charge of brand, the collection, and pretty much the design and the identity of the brand. But it's always more on like apparel design situation, while a creative director like me is more in charge of visual concepts, photo shoots, videos, and how to present a project coherently with the clothes that another type of creative director developed. So basically this was the thing I studied. I did the photographic composition, I studied styling, which is also very important role of creative director, because creative director is the person who knows everything, who knows how to do a little bit of everything. So he is able to be in charge of every small detail of the project. So for example, when I develop my photo shoots, we usually have the team composed of makeup artists and hairstylists, stylist, which usually is me. I prefer to style my own photo shoots whenever I'm a creative director. It hasn't been neither of the times where I was not the stylist. Most of the times it can be that I am the stylist but not the creative director if I develop someone else's project. Then we have the photographer. Sometimes they have the assistant who helps to systemize the lights and the computers, more technical parts. And then I have my own personal assistants who are most likely my best friends, who are so kind and nice to assist me to make my projects, my dreams come true. So basically, in such a big team where everyone is in charge of different aspects of the projects, creative director is the one who needs to understand, guide, and to know what each of the team has to do. So basically, the most important is to understand your project, to understand what parts of the project are necessary to complete, and to guide every person during the project. So for my photo shoots and for my project, I prefer to use the method of street casting. I have no shame to approach a person on the street and to ask them to be the model for my next project, because for me it's all about the feeling and the vibe of the person. And whenever I'm on a walk at the street, and this is something that I did a lot in Florence, if I feel the same vibe that I'm looking for my project, if I feel it from the person, I immediately approach them and I ask them, hey, can you be my model for the next shooting? And usually those are the people that either never thought about modeling and then they're very surprised about their capabilities, that let's say I saw in them, I found in them this potential, or they are dreaming about the modeling career, but unfortunately, for example, they are not fitting the standards of the modeling agencies, which are very stupid and most of the time are not inclusive. Unfortunately, still until these days, this is the problem. So they're super happy to represent themselves in the projects such as photo shoots and video shoots, as they have their moment to shine. And at the same time, I produce for them their own portfolio, and they help me to produce my portfolio. So this is a win-win situation. I prefer to keep the photos realistic, and I don't really go away from the original photo. I don't like post-producing a lot the skin and the imperfections, so-called imperfections that the model can have, as I believe they are part of the personality and they're part of the real image and of, let's say, representation of real life, because obviously we're not perfect, we are not photoshopped in real life, and I'm so sick and tired of people who are overusing it in order to hide who they are. So that's why in my shootings I try to build everything in real life, everything that I want to represent, all the lights, all the location, all the mock-ups and everything. I would like it to be as realistic as possible, and then in Photoshop I would like to just delete small things. Like, for example, you can find in a photo shoot on the white background there might be a lot of marks, especially footprints. So those are the ones that I'm definitely deleting, because then it ruins the overall composition. But everything else what was real should stay real inside the photo. Until these days, I'm very thankful that I found out about Fashion Vibes, because it was such a significant milestone in my career and in my development. When I moved to Milan, I realized that I have this big opportunity to volunteer at the fashion shows and finally get to understand how the fashion show actually works and what's happening behind the scenes. So last February, I started to do some surfing around Instagram on the internet and find some ways of how I can be useful to somebody during the fashion show. And I was so lucky to find through hashtags or through something random on Instagram to find the account of Fashion Vibes. I wrote to them on their email and I asked them if I can simply just stay with them inside one room and just to see how they're working, how they are developing the fashion show. And this could have been just enough for me already. But then during the show, during the casting, I ended up so useful to them that they put me at the most important, let's say, part of the show. I was the one who curated the models, who made sure they're dressed fine, their makeup is good, and they're ready to actually get out to the runway. As I was, let's say, the last person who takes charge of making sure that everything is fine. And after that, I managed it successfully. And after that, the founder of Fashion Vibes told me that she wants to continue with me, that I volunteer for them and I help them to actually develop everything, not only during the fashion show, but the whole process of curating the designers until the show. So I'm super happy about it. I love the founder of Fashion Vibes. She's my angel, my mentor, and I hope this will be a long-lasting relationship with her. The last show of September was quite chaotic in terms of organization, because unfortunately there was a horrible storming in Milan exactly on those days of the fashion shows when we had. So the whole Ministry of Milan had to close the location where we were supposed to have the fashion show. So I remember how the founder of Fashion Vibes, Julia, she called me in the morning and she said, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do the show. I don't know if they're gonna let us open the location. That means the whole idea, the whole concept, the whole thing is gonna break down just because of the weather condition. And it's good that we all didn't give up and we continued talking to organizations, and we found a way of how to realize the fashion show, but still it was safe for us, for models, and for the others, also for the guests. So I think this was the most stressful moment when it comes to the fashion shows. It's very difficult to control the external factors. For example, the weather. Unfortunately, even if you have planned everything and you think everything is gonna go well to the end, there are external factors that unfortunately might block your show, your idea, or your project. So that's why you should never give up. You should not lose hope and think about other possibilities of how to manage it. And luckily, we were fine and we managed to continue the show. Whenever I do a project or a shooting, I honestly hate my own backstage videos because I am dressed like a totally homeless people, super miscoordinated and super simple way. But I feel like this is part of my expression, that I really would like to be behind the scenes when I create or propose my project. However, whenever I go out, of course, this is something else. This is when I try to be more feminine. I try to mix a lot of textiles. For example, like I'm dressed here today with the knitted sweater and then the leather pants and then shiny leather boots. And yeah, I think I play a lot with the textile and texture of the materials. And this is something that I appreciate about my style. I might say something very stupid and superficial and something that you've heard already 1,000 times, but everyone should take care of the environment, and every action of every person creates impact on the environment. This is something that you probably heard from everywhere, but this is the actual truth. Because if every person, if every industry, every brand are gonna think twice about their impact that they're producing for the environment, I think this is when we're gonna start to be more environmental friendly. Right now I see a lot of brands developing their clothes from dead stock, using upcycling methods, and I think this is something that we can actually grow from. This is something that every brand can consider, because of course mass production of clothes and all the time using new textiles will lead to a negative impact on the environment. Also me, as a stylist, I really take care of my clothes. I have a huge wardrobe, to be honest, which on one hand could be something bad and something that could be said it destroys the planet, but on the other hand, I take care so much of my clothes. I know how to wash it well. I've learned myself how to repair the clothes, and I visit my seamstress that is helping me to repair them as well, so that those clothes, they can last me for 10 years and onwards, even though they are bought from the mass market. So this is something that everyone can do. Everyone can learn how to firstly curate their wardrobe in order to make sure you don't buy something trendy, something that you're gonna throw away because of the bad quality and because the trends have already passed and you think that you will never wear that leopard printed dress again. Second of all, you need to remember that all the trends are going in circle, so even if something worked back in 2015, it might work again after 10 years. So just reserve those clothes for better times. There's no need to throw them away in a stupid way that it's gonna end up in the ground as a part of microplastics. I think unfortunately nowadays the term of diversity and also the term of exclusivity, they were really abused by the mass market and fashion industry, because at this point it became something needed and something not honestly and not well presented. Because when it all started back, I think in 2010s, the inclusion and diversity, it was fresh, it was something new, it was something to add to your brand in order to be cool, interesting, and fit the modern trends. But recently I see that brands are putting those words and those concepts like shamelessly and without any particular thought, without any creativity, just because they need to tick it in their list. So I believe that nowadays it's not becoming real, it's not becoming interesting. There are very rare cases when I can see the inclusivity was used in order to represent a person of that size, that color, that race. Instead, they're really abusing the whole idea. I completely understand that maybe working at the fashion industry or being interested in fashion is not for everyone. And I have so many friends that are working in other different fields that are much more important than fashion industry. But let's not forget that we cannot walk naked, unfortunately, yet. So in any case, any person who is not even working at the fashion industry will be somehow connected to it. Because anyways, every person will represent their style, their mood, and their personal creativity with the clothes. Somebody is gonna do it more subtle, somebody is gonna use it as their tool and as representation of their personality to the mass. But there's no way you're gonna tell me that you're not interested in fashion. Because let's not forget, it's not only about the concept, it's also about the items that you're putting on your body. I believe in the future, I would prefer to continue working on the projects that are bringing impact in fashion and in society. I love volunteering and working for the projects that are trying to make the humanity better and trying to help people to express themselves. So in any direction in which I'm gonna go, I would like to keep it as the core, as the identity of my works. I think I would love to work in the future for a big brand to understand even better how the fashion system works. However, there's always my dream to either continue the magazine that I'm doing, which is now on hold because I just graduated and unfortunately it's a bit too hectic to curate it. However, during my study years, I was able to actually complete the full edition. So I hope to continue making it in the future when I have a bigger budget and a stable team that can work with me on it. Otherwise, I would love to open my clothing brand where I would shift from, as I previously mentioned, one type of creative director to another. However, I know that I'm still lacking of proper design and illustrating skills, which I wish to be able to obtain in the future. So in general, I would like to advise anyone who would like to enter the creative industry is to be curious, to all the time look around, to understand what people are doing and what they are demanding, to look at the trends, because even though trends create many problems, they are reflecting our society, and this is the way to group and to specify what the society is demanding. Then I would advise definitely to volunteer and to do as much as you can during your study years, because everything is going to end up as your work experience and as your personal development. And to really find the people who would like to collaborate with you, with who you have the same vision and with who you can build a strong team and who you can trust on developing the projects. Trust is also one of the most important things when you work on creative projects. Those are the things that I would advise to everyone in order to kickstart well inside the fashion industry. Thank you so much for watching this interview until the end, and thanks to Aperitivo Fotografico for having me and for listening to my experience.